Coming up tonight on Game All Night, designer Josh Mills. Well, hello and welcome to yet another Game All Night. I'm your host, Chris Whiphand, joined as always by bartender Dan. Dan, how are we doing tonight?
How are you doing?
I'm fantabulous. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. How are things in your world?
Oh, delightful.
Yeah?
Yeah, we're it's been a media blitz lately. We've gotten the Avengers Endgame. We've gotten the Game of Thrones. Now this is I'm now dating us because this will run later, and that'll seem like
But
everyone.
not
will
too
know.
much, actually.
Okay. All right,
No, we're still pretty close to the point where actually you should see this right after Memorial Day. So you probably just got done. You said you were going to have a crazy Memorial Day. Anything fun?
That's a family journey we take up to New York City. So I'll be in Manhattan for the whole Memorial Day weekend, which will be lovely.
So I assume you're not camping.
No, not.
All right. So what are we drinking, sir?
All right, so tonight we got a little themed here for both of us. So we're both on the same kick here. We're both doing German Weiss beers.
Okay.
What I've poured for you is the Francis Connor, and what I've poured for me is the Weihenstephan. In this case, now it's probably come up before that the Weihenstephan Dunkel is one of my favorite beers in the world.
Right.
I'm not quite as high, just by style. The Heffa is not. Does not rank quite that well for me, but still delicious. So naturally, I was greedy and poured that one for myself.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. You can be that way.
But the Francis Connor is also delicious. I think there's a little more of a banana note going on in the Francis Connor. But yeah, I enjoy them both.
Yeah. It's not like the full on Hogarden unfiltered experience, but it's nice and light. I don't know if I could. Can you do the Hefeweizen and Coke, Dan? I can't do it.
Yeah, I actually, I think, my my adherence to German purity laws forbids me from even attempting it. So,
but that's where they do it. That's the crazy part. I'm with you. I can't do it. I don't like a shandy either. I'm a weird one. Well, you know what? We've been talking long enough. We have in the green room today, Mr. Joshua Mills, creator of Rocky Road a la Mode and I believe it's currently at the time of this release, Big Easy Busking on the Kickstarter. How we doing, Josh?
Doing great. I am going to try an Austin East Cider's Blonde Orange for Memorial Day. Kind of get that summer feeling going. Normally I'd be all about the beer, but it just something felt like it's cider with it warming up and stuff down here in North Carolina. So
opening beer on screen.
Oh, that's good. That is good.
So how is it? Is it tasty?
It is orange. It's a cider and it has alcohol in it. So that's pretty much the only thing going in that I really wanted. So they nailed it on all accounts.
There you go.
5%. I mean, it's poolside.
I have some Angry Orchard Rosé on draft still left from my party that I will slowly take down. It's a great draft beer because it doesn't really turn like a beer does. I don't feel like I have to drink this entire thing within 2 weeks. I don't get that.
I mean, when I get a growler and I'm immediately like that. I'm like, oh no, I have to. It's like I got to do it now, tonight. What if it's tomorrow? What is it going to happen to it? No, don't ruin it.
Now I will say that North Carolina is. I was impressed. I got to spend a week in North Carolina, right outside Raleigh. Right in the middle of the hurricane, thank you. That you guys have
I feel sorry for you. I was only having a child during that hurricane. So I wasn't having anything, but my wife was. That was an episode.
Oh, that's a whole story that I'm sure. So what day? Because I mean, everything was shut down, Friday, right? Because that's the day everything was supposed to come through. Well, it did come through. It didn't come through where I was because it went right around me. But so what was yours? Tell me about this.
15 minutes after it made landfall. is when the baby's official birth time was. So leading up to that was just a nightmare scenario. And my wife was unfortunately in labor for a very long time. But you saw like the helicopters going out and getting people and, just pulling in people to the hospital, all from Wilmington and other places. And not the optimal time to have a child in a hospital. Nobody cares about you. They're like, no, something's going to catch on fire. There's flooding. We have to run. Yeah. Let's focus on the baby.
guys, I need your attention.
Guys, here, focus. Okay,
wow.
Do it.
So, well, I mean, part of me is kind of like, you said long labor, but that was actually probably a good thing because it meant you got there. You kind of knew what was going on before the storm came, right?
It'd be if you told my wife that, she would punch you immediately in the face. I mean, a long labor, that seems like a good thing, right? No,
well,
I'm making no comments. I feel like I could still get in trouble. So.
Wow. Hey, you definitely.
She was a champion.
I'm sitting in a hotel room playing Nemo's War while you're out, bringing the miracle of life into the world.
I was just standing around wondering what was going to happen. Like, there's this lady is not happy. Somebody help.
I think that kind of defines the last year of your life too, right?
Yeah, yes. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old. That's it. That's the whole thing. The whole shebang.
That's the life. Wow. I had no idea. If you at home think that was research, it was not.
It's not.
It was not.
They did not do research. That it did not happen.
Well, not that kind anyway, right?
Well, no. You don't, it's getting weird.
Well, every now and then it comes up. People are like, I can't believe how much research you do. I'm like, you call it research. Some people call it stalking. It's fine.
Yeah. Don't act like I haven't seen you on my LinkedIn profile and Facebook side. I've seen the comments, the weird likes on Instagram. They're there. Exactly. I get what you're doing.
The awkward like, wait a sec. Why are you liking that picture of me in a bathing suit? I don't understand.
Also, that was 3 years ago. Like what?
Oh yeah, I love bringing them up from the past. That's even better.
Yeah.
But that's borderline trolling. I don't you can have some fun with that.
I put it out there. You could do whatever you want with it.
There you go. So where I was going with that before the baby came along and everything was that you guys have a great growing beer culture down in North Carolina. I fell in love with like Noda and so good.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic down here. Especially, we usually go at least once or twice a year up to Asheville, where Asheville is basically just like brewery, a store you actually need, a brewery, a store you actually need. And all of downtown and run around like Sierra Nevadas, they built a huge facility out there to brew a bunch of stuff. So a lot of that helps a lot of the smaller brewers too, because everybody just kind of pulls in and does great business, and Asheville's a tourist town. But here around in Durham and Raleigh and Chapel Hill, it's just exploded over the last 5-10 years. My friend actually did a documentary about just kind of the brewery scene and how it took off, and I think it's like Brewonomics or something like that. Okay. I can't remember the title of it, but it's really good. And you should just look it up, like a documentary about beer brewing, and you'd find it. But it's a really good insight right when it was really growing and stuff.
Right.
And I'm happy because I like beer, so now it's cheaper and all around me, and I got options.
Right. But, you have a great beer community. You also have probably, I don't want to say one of the most prolific, but you definitely have one of the largest, longest running like game development communities, and that's the Game Designers of North Carolina, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And we could call it the most prolific. Let's do it. I don't care. Let's give us all the credit we can grab.
But you guys are getting is it too much to think like Unpub kind of really can kind of trace its root back to this, and it seems to be growing. Like every time I see a meeting, it's a lot of people at just the basic meetings.
It really is, and I think that really comes out of consistency. Like you can talk like Matt Wolf, Mark and James, all of them. were consistent from the beginning, right? And when I joined, that consistency made me be consistent, and it really allows people to come in and feel safe, where they can perform their craft and fail quite a lot, because that's all design and any kind of creative medium is just failing until you get lucky. But it's fantastic for me. I mean, any given week, I can just go get something, play test somebody else's stuff, talk about ideas, or just hang out. I'm really proud of what we have going, and I love when we go to conventions and stuff, especially unpubs, where you just see like half of the people wearing blue shirts. With game designers in North Carolina, we're rolling real deep. We're also recruiting people. We're pulling TC Petty down here from Pennsylvania.
Well,
we're doing it right.
There's only so much ego allowed in Pennsylvania at a time, and mine was starting to grow. So he I think it got uncomfortable and he left. That's fine.
It couldn't fit in your gigantic state, so
no.
had to come down here.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's definitely interesting, because you do have a lot of people kind of based out of there, and obviously with Dice Hate Me did the Rocky Road a la mode, came out with them. Nice rabbit-sized box, I do believe, there.
It was Dice Hate Me will be doing Milkman for me, but Green Couch Games actually was the one that brought Rocky Road. But Jason and Chris, who both were talking about it, and either one of them could have ended up publishing it at the time. Not a lot of people know that.
Okay.
So it ended up being Katarsky that took it. But it's basically the same for me. I got awesome people to do art and everything else. I'm like, yeah, you guys fight over it. It's cool.
Yes.
Do it.
Have fun. Yeah, exactly. You want people to fight over you. That's the best part.
That's what I hear. Just
So you have Milkman. So you said that's gonna be coming out from Dice Hate Me next.
It is, and that's actually one of my first kind of designs. It's a dice rolling game, about 90 minutes. A lot of everybody's rolling dice on every turn, right? And then you have like a main turn where you have more dice and more power, and then you're just trying to build like your little like Milkman engine. So like your dairy farms and your cows, and I gotta milk the cows, and then I gotta store the milk, and then I gotta process it into chocolate milk, whole milk, skim milk, and move it on through until you're delivering it to different neighborhoods and different doors. Of course, some neighborhoods are far away, you gotta put all the milk in the milk truck, and some are closer. So you pick the strategy, and you figure out how to best live that Milkman life from 1950. Although I feel like they had grocery stores in 1950, so I don't know if they're delivering milk then. But hey,
no, I think they still were, because I think when my parents moved into the house that we're at was in the 50s, and they used to get two things: milk and Charlie's chips delivered to the house. So remember the big cans, and
Yeah, well, I was actually in Nat Levan, who did New Bedford. I'm good friends with him, but I was in his old house, and we're in North Carolina. Things are old, but they're all built out of wood, and they're pretty much tore down or whatever now if they're 200 years old. But they had the old like hole in the back of their house for where like ice would come in, like the Iceman would just come and like shove ice through and that was fascinating to me. So of course, I immediately want to figure out how to make a game where you cut out ice from the Great Lakes and somehow bring them to Alabama or something.
It had to come from somewhere, right? Like they trucked it down. So is there a reason for the dairy themes, or is it just you grew up milk? What is it?
So to loop it back to Big Easy Busking, what I do is I find a theme that I really kind of like and is resonating with me, and I end up making multiple games around that theme. So Big Easy Busking, obviously New Orleans, playing music. I also have a game, not unpublished, but called Masters of Sound, which is all about like recording, like you're using your master tapes and getting the perfect version of each song and then putting it together in a record. And it actually looks like a record, like all the tiles in the game are like a half circle. And then when you're done, you have the A side of the record, and then it's 2 rounds, of course, because you got to do the B side. And then whoever has the most complete kind of experience as a record, Dark Side of the Moon-esque record, wins. So I don't know how you win music, but I've tried twice now. So we'll see. If I can keep it going.
I know how you lose music, and that's you listen to what I listen to, apparently. But that's only because we had this conversation last week. But the it's interesting because I'm waiting for the mixtape expansion for that already. You haven't even released the game, and I kind of want the mixtape expansion. You got to pick the
that's
best
part about
songs
the
from each
mixtape.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, the mixtape expansion actually just comes in a cassette tape size thing, so shipping's real cheap. So I think we can do it. Also, if anybody's looking for that game, I'm available.
I love it. So so that does lead us full circle to your most current design, which is the Big Easy Busking, right? So first off, let's get the elephant in the room. What is busking? Because I don't think a lot of people know what it is.
So first of all, the Big Easy is New Orleans.
Right.
If you don't
Good
know
point.
that, it turns out some people don't know that, and it kind of blew my mind. Busking is basically when you go and you do street performance. The majority of the time, it's music for money, for tips.
Okay.
So even if you see a mime out there, he is busking to earn money.
Okay.
And really, the kind of the idea for this game came because I was in New Orleans. I was actually there for St. Patrick's Day. Was having a ball, but just seeing all the energy and excitement both from the crowds and audiences to the musicians having a lot of fun, but they're working their tail off. Like you could see that they have a smile, they're enjoying themselves, but they're all sweating and hustling and moving, right?
Right.
And something really those two things together, where you see people doing what they love, but also working really hard. I always kind of gravitate towards that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of funny. I think that's a real hallmark of the city, right? Is that I don't think you can get anywhere in the French Quarter without hearing the city, right? Like you're going to hear music, you're going to hear something going on, dancing, tambourine, anything. But it's so alive.
It really is, and just you feel like it's weird because you don't feel like you're in the United States, but you're in the United States, and that's exactly why it's amazing, right? Because it shows you the melting pot that is all of America, and it's just like real in your face. And can't ask much for that from a city. I mean, right now, flights from RDU are so cheap. I keep thinking about just going there for like a day or something. Somehow they know that I've been doing a lot of looking up on New Orleans, and they keep sending me these ads. Something's up. I don't know about this internet thing.
It's really, it's kind of creepy. Like somebody literally posted a meme, and I didn't even click on it. It was in my feed, and there was an ad for a T-shirt made from that meme directly below it. And I'm like,
man.
And you wonder
And you
why.
bought it.
Wow. No, there were some. The T-shirt game's been pretty strong lately, but no, not at $30 for a T-shirt. I'm not in on that. But New Orleans is such a cool town. I've been there only twice, and once was too brief because I was only there for one day after work. But so it's not just one guy. Might be one guy playing on the corner, but sometimes there's large groups that are kind of all out there jamming, and you just know that maybe they're killing time before a gig that night or something. Like you just kind of, it's interesting. It's such a vibrant part of it.
Yeah, and they do these like crazy parades. Like you can just buy a parade permit thing from the city of New Orleans and just like go down the street, and a bunch of people will follow you with a whole drum line and everything. Like you can just go do that and give somebody money, and it will happen.
That's awesome.
Like, why am I not doing that all the time? I don't have infinite money. That's probably why. But like, it sounds so much fun. I think I know what I'm doing for my birthday this year.
There you go. Well, it's funny because my first exposure to New Orleans was a complete whim as well. We ended up having extra airline tickets because our flight got canceled, and we're like, we couldn't do a full vacation, but we're like, let's go to a food town, and we decided New Orleans, and we spent like a 4 days down there, and it was amazing. Like I love the town. It's a great time.
Yeah, and I think that's me and my wife do that a lot. Like 3 or 4 days in just a city somewhere in the U.S. that we haven't been, and it always is a interesting, fun time because you're exposed to you think the U.S. is all the same, and then you go. We went to Kansas City for the MLS Cup because I won tickets for like 3 days. It was winter time too. It was like December, so it was freezing cold. But that whole experience was amazing. I mean, we had a blast. So doing that, like I always just basically look. The reason why I'm getting those ads is because I'm constantly looking for super cheap flights, and I'll book a flight and be like, all right, now we have to figure out all the other parts.
Flights are cheap. Hotels $250, but
yeah, we're sleeping on the ground. It's 2 degrees outside.
I guess it gets a little harder when you have family, or do you have a good arrangement for that?
I mean, of course it's harder, right? One, you don't even want to really be gone that long, but the 3 days, I mean, you got to do it. But my parents, luckily, are super helpful, so we still been able to do it a couple of times, and you know, easy ones like places in Florida are really cheap and quick, so you're not even they don't even know you're gone.
Nice. Well, that's good. You know, my cat, he knows when I'm away. He knows. Like, he's plotting if I'm not around. I have a robotic food feeder for him now, so we can just kind of jet at a moment's notice.
If they would make those for toddlers, I would buy one.
I don't see why you couldn't, like, convert it. I mean...
What do I put in? Jelly beans? Like, I got to figure out what kind of food to put in there. This is going to get weird because I'm not against it.
They don't sell baby chow.
They call it Cheerios. So
Dad is the family man.
I'm sure it would fit in that same dispenser. They're almost
I mean,
the same size.
I could get a 50-gallon drum of goldfish. I'm sure they sell that at Costco or something.
Yeah, nutritional goldfish. That's what you need, right? I guess that's what Cheerios kind of do, right? But that is, or the little stars. I see those little stars on the floor at every restaurant ever, just crushed to death by chairs and humans. But I don't know what they are. Well, this has been a great introduction, sir. So I think this is a good time to take a quick break, and hear from friend of the show, Mr. Patrick Hillier. We'll be right back after this. Pontifications with Patrick Hillier.
A man died today when a pile of games fell on him. He only had his shelf to blame.
Game All Night is a proud member of Punchboard Media. Be sure to check out tons of other great shows at punchboardmedia.com. Welcome back. I'm still here with Mr. Josh Mills. Again, great designer, friend of the show, Tranker, North Carolinian, and traveler. And apparently a fan of Conan, I think, sitting up there on the shelf.
Well, I work for Funcom, so we make Conan Exiles and Age of Conan. So yes, huge fan.
All right, fair enough. I'm always a fan of whatever pays the check, right?
Always.
So what's with Xenon Profiteer sitting up there then?
So it's one of my favorite deck builders.
Okay.
It reminds me that any theme can get made, even when everything's going against a game, it can get made, right? The designer in this case, can't believe anybody would publish anything by that guy.
Right.
The theme, like we're talking about xenon from air and filtering it out. That's not super riveting. And I generally like the mechanic. I usually hate deck builders, or don't hate, but I'm indifferent to them, which is way worse. But that thing, I love everything about it. So just a little reminder for myself.
I love playing it at 5 people though.
Oh, if you haven't played with 5, you haven't played. That's all I gotta say. Yeah.
Just make sure you get the version that's printed for 5 people, because you don't want the other one.
Yeah, you don't want the 1 to 4.
Yeah, it's like the pennies printed upside down thing. It's just
poor TC. I just feel bad, but I'm still doing it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel bad, but it's not going to stop what I'm doing.
No, you're kind of like, aw, but it's still funny.
Yeah.
So
not me we're talking about.
So what kind of design chops have you had? What got you started in designing games?
Really, what started this whole thing that's led to getting published and being in the hobby industry was the Dice Hate Me Games 54-card game challenge.
Okay.
And that was just because, one, Dice Hate Me is in Chapel Hill, so they're local to where I live. I do not know how I found out about the contest. I really don't. I don't even know why I was looking. But that led me to the Game Designers of North Carolina. And next thing I know, I caught the bug and I started just making game after game after game. Back in the day when I worked at daycare, when I went to daycare, it made us do a lot of manual labor.
I get, it's the secret of daycare, right?
Yeah, I would go to like Walgreens or whatever the drugstore was and buy one of those old, just like checkerboards that was like $10 with all the pieces. And then I bought spray paint, and this was when you could buy spray paint if you weren't 18. And you spray paint boards and then mark them all up. And I made a bunch of casino gambling games at 8 years old. I don't know what I was doing, but that's what I was doing. I was also renting Game Boy games to other kids and making enough money to buy a new Game Boy game every week. So
were you still able to play them though at that point? Or
I mean, you'd get it for an hour or 2 hours, depending on what we've arranged. I had 2 Game Boys, so I would also rent the system. I have multiple copies of some games when they were popular. I mean, I was making a racket until I got caught, and I'm like, I'm being an entrepreneur. Leave me alone. So then I started doing the board game things. Like, hey, you guys want to just play this game? You need 15 quarters. You're not leaving with 15 quarters. The house always wins. So it's just kind of like the back, kind of history of where my brain is. My day job's in the video game industry, so I've always been thinking about games. One thing I really like about tabletop is, the thing I like about designing video games is it's super collaborative and it takes a lot of people to make one. The same is true of tabletop, but you have a lot more ownership until that collaboration happens. It's more like kind of writing a novel or a book versus making a movie, right? And that's fun because you can experiment with stuff. There's really no risk. You're not wasting other people's time, except for the Game Designers North Carolina. But whatever, that's fine. Everybody's in. I put some stuff on the table that is rough. So, like, it's rough. Like, I don't know the rules. I don't know what the board is, but I have blue cubes. Let's go. And they're like,
what's my goal here?
What's my goal? Who cares to win?
Make one up. So you're in the video game industry. What about because to me, it feels like everything we've heard about video games is that it takes so long to iterate and to develop. And there's a point where technology kind of can outpace the game itself. And you run into all these problems. And, I think board games can take a long time, but it feels for completely different reasons.
Yeah, they're completely different reasons. I mean, if you're doing, it really depends on the size of video game you're doing. I mean, there are people that, 1 or 2 man teams that make stuff. And then there's, you have kind of mid-sized studios and then, the gigantic ones that are doing like Red Dead Redemption. Right. And you're talking, those are like 3-year life cycles, maybe even longer. I mean, 18 to 24 months is kind of typical. But, that doesn't even talk about mobile and that whole side of things where turnaround times are a lot quicker. It's completely different reasons. And to be blunt, there's a lot more money in the video game industry and you're employing a lot more people. So the whole process is a little bit different. In tabletop, I think it's kind of weird to see how trends pop out in the tabletop because you would think the turnaround times would be quicker, but because you actually have all of that operations and logistics that have to happen, that adds a whole nother layer that complicates matters. So the reasons are always different. Usually the teams is significantly smaller. You're talking about, you have an artist, a graphic designer, a publisher, maybe a developer. And that's what brings almost every game to market, right?
Right.
On the tabletop side. Now, that's not to say, when you start getting into games with minis and these larger productions, that's totally different. But the hobby side is usually what I'm interested in because the bigger stuff feels like more towards the video game side. And I'm like, I'm already do that for my normal job. I don't want it to, that's not what I'm going to be doing for my hobby or for fun. Right.
Now, when you go into designing a video game, I would imagine it's a little bit more structured isn't the right word, but I'm like, you're not going to worry about somebody you're not worried about somebody retheming your game, right? Because it's more
No.
of a
Yeah.
genre first, right?
Yeah, no, I have seen people retheme a game in the video game industry. But you're not, we kind of start at different places. Like, and I've thought about this a lot because in tabletop people talk, is it, and it's hard for me to discern which one is which because I kind of do it different, but
Right.
is it mechanics first? Is it theme first? And to me, it's like experience first. And I think experience is what drives a lot of, the video games that end up getting made because there's people pitch a lot of games, video games, and you're really when you're pitching an experience. You hit some of those mechanical things too. There's a lot of examples, so you can just like in the tabletop, you could just pull examples. This is like this, but with these things, because that's the easiest way to get somebody from A to B.
Right.
But if you're making a video game, a lot of times you have like art boards, mood boards. A setting, like a lot of stuff that you can build a whole board game without really knowing that stuff first, right? Because like, oh, we'll retheme it from this European city to space, right? But like in a video game, you're making so many assets, so many of the mechanical choices directly integrate with that. You can't do that same thing all the time. Now, that's not saying you can't reskin something because that's what it's called. Like if you hear reskin, that's basically just means retheme.
Right. Like what we used to do
so-
with like Unreal and Doom back in the day where
Sure.
you just bought like tons of different skins for it, but didn't matter.
Yep.
Interesting. So what kind of board games do you think would happen if people designed more from an experience side rather than a mechanical or, just even theme side?
I mean, I think you would end up with games like Big Easy Busking, Milkman, Rocky Road Island. No, I think honestly, a lot of it I think is the language people use.
Okay.
Because I think they're still actually trying to do the experience side of things if they say theme first. Because when you play a game that say, I'll use New Bedford as an example, because even if I do anything to it, I'm real good friends with Nat, and it's fine. But it's a game about whaling,
right,
and town building, and the theme and the mechanics integrate really well to create this experience that makes you feel like it did back then, or it makes you perceive that that's what it felt like back then.
Right.
And that to me is the perfect marriage. But you could make that game and put a different theme on it. I just don't think it would be as successful, and it wouldn't communicate the same experience. And I think that's why it's weird with board games, because you could take any game and figure out how to retheme it to something else, and then you somehow discount the theme that's out there with it just because you can comprehend doing it a different way. And that to me is unfair. Nothing's unfair. That to me is a cheap shot.
Okay. Fair enough. So if like Xenon was, based on something else, it would still, the mechanics would remain. But
yeah, I mean, you can make it Ninja Turtles and like the Foot Clan's in there, and you're trying to get all the Foot Clan out of your deck, and you're the 4 turtles or whatever. Like, sure, but when it's Xenon and you really feel like that is the process, I understand the process, I've learned some stuff about this. Like, to me, that's the cool part. Like, that's the interesting bit.
So if somebody is looking to start out, because you're obviously, you have a few games in, so you're still kind of, finding your own way through this. What would be some of the best advice you could give to that person who, has the couple pile of index cards sitting at home that, he's tried to make a game or she's tried to make a game and just doesn't know where to take it?
I would tell her, take it, keep making it and find other people that want to make games. And then once you can talk to them about stuff, go online, you'll find those people. It doesn't have to be in real life. If you're fortunate enough like me to have those people in real life, do it, but just do it. And know you're going to fail majority of the time. Even the designers that have stuff coming out all of the time, like Daniel Solis, for example, he's always got something coming out, but he fails all of the time. I know because I'm in the group with him. Right. And he knows that too. So it's the process of going through the process and getting better. Just like if you picked up a guitar, you wouldn't expect to just be able to play out of nowhere. Right. Like you would learn like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, This is hitting a little close to home. So you'd learn Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and then Happy Birthday, and you would slowly build up. Maybe you learn a chord or two, and every single time you fail, you gain knowledge, and then that knowledge becomes extremely valuable the next time you need to make a decision. And to me, it's just do it. Just do it. Stop reading about it. Talk, just do it. Why are you watching this? Go do it.
So do you think that they should be, should you worry about things like theme and mechanics, or should you try to focus on that experience we were talking about?
Do whatever makes you excited about doing it. So for me, that is, you could say it's the theme, because that's usually where I start. But when I say theme, I really mean the experience. For instance, I want to make a game about racketeering with mobsters, maybe Chicago. I don't know. The goal of, the Sting. And this is, by the way, this is all I have of this game. And I've thought about it for 4 years. It's that setting. The win condition is you make an infinite loop. So you have dirty money, you have influence and dirty cops and stuff. And you have to make an infinite loop in terms of resources to produce clean money. Once you do that, you win. That means everybody else just loses because they didn't do that thing. And that idea came from Glass Road because there was an infinite loop in it. And I was like, and everybody's like, oh, I can't believe these games with infinite loops. I'm like, that would be a cool win condition. Right. I haven't figured out the rest. I don't know how to do the rest of it. Mark McGee, I pulled in and I was like, help me. Let's figure it out.
I like it. So that brings us back to the Big Easy Busking. So we know Carl over Weird Giraffe picked it up, and,
they did.
Obviously you guys worked together. You found some great artwork for it because it's a beautiful game. And I love that it's very distinctive at the same time. So what really sets it apart from what else is out there right now?
So aside from all the visual stuff, from a mechanics or gameplay kind of experience, what I think really sets it aside is the way it handles the area majority, which area majority almost feels like a dirty term to call what this is. Because then you immediately think of troops in this location, and I'm going to kick
dudes
you out,
and
it's all dudes on a map. The way it works in Big Easy Busking is you're putting energy into crowds, and the way you're doing that is by playing songs, and songs take different amounts of energy. So the sax player, this song might take 2 energy from him. It has maybe a lot of drums in it, so 3 energy from that guy, and then the trumpet player is barely doing anything, so just 1 energy from that person. So you throw that all on the card, you start playing the song, you pick a crowd that it's going to be played on. Everybody starts doing the same thing, right? Because you're all playing to the same crowds. There's a limited set of people walking down the street that you can play to. Sure. But the interesting bit is you start playing the song, and then other people start playing songs. Their decision while that's going around before you finish playing your song is going to drastically influence how you decide to finish that song out. And what that means is, say, for instance, I'm going to throw a whole bunch of energy onto this crowd so I can get the top payout. And there's going to be 3 energy on it. Well, somebody else decides they're going to play on that same space. Now they're going to put 4 energy on it. So I'm like, I don't need to put 3 energy. I'm just wasting energy. Maybe I should pull some back, because when you play a song that really resonates with a crowd, when it's the same mood, you can either pull that in tips, or you could help it feed your band. You're feeding off the energy of the crowd, allowing you to play more songs, last longer, stay out longer. The longer you're out there, the better off you're going to be, because you're going to be playing music for a lot more people. So that decision, it allows a little bit of bluffing's also the wrong word, because it's kind of antagonizing it. It allows this cool thing to happen above the table, but you still know what the couple of outcomes are. It's not complete blindsidedness. This coupled with the idea of how the area majority works, which is there is a payout, just like almost any of them, where if you have the most energy on this card, you're going to get $4, right? And also if you're tied, both of you get it, so it's not direct conflict. But there's also a minimum threshold. So no matter what, say if I put at least 3 energy on this crowd, I give them that much of myself with the music, right? At least 3. It could be more, but at least 3. It will pay out $2, no matter what. So it doesn't matter what other players do. So if you don't want to go head to head with people all the time, you can just spread it out across the entire street, right? Across Royal Street, and just be like, I'm going to make sure I hit the minimum on each one of these different crowds. I'm going to be here. I'm going to appeal to these people. I'm going to get paid. I'm not going to spend my time trying to like have a little battle with their trumpet player over there. I hate that guy. Remember that one time back in Cafe Du Monde when you stole my seat? Like, I don't want to do that. You could play it that way. Or you could be like, I'm going to win this crowd because it has a huge payout and I'm going to sacrifice everything else. And those are both viable. Of course, most people will do some kind of mix in the middle, but they're definitely both viable. So that's the cool thing that happens. And it's really, really, really hard to communicate until you do it one time.
Right.
Because then you get that sense of like, oh, Ryan, are you really gonna play that song there? Like, is that what you're doing right now? Come on. Like that's how it feels.
I like that you picked Royal Street. I mean, the low-hanging fruit would be Bourbon Street, but all the artists and the cool stuff that you really want to see is actually over one block over on Royal.
It's like I read a Wikipedia article once or something.
I thought maybe you've been down there, but
I mean, I have. I was that as well. But one of my favorite things about themes is just reading about them and learning about them. Because of course, before I started this game, I would have totally said Bourbon Street like a fool. But now I wanted to seem smart and cool, so I said Royal Street.
You did until you told me you weren't. So
that's right. I gotta shut up after that part.
You gotta keep that part to yourself.
Well, what are you gonna do? That's the TC rubbing off.
Yeah,
he lives down here now.
We just need that hair. We all need that hair. Yeah. So awesome. Well, this has been a ton of fun. I've really enjoyed, getting to know you and getting to learn a little bit more. Are you going to be at any conventions this year, kind of showing this off, I guess? Oh
yeah, absolutely. I will be at Origins here in just a couple of weeks. My plan is to be at Gen Con. Could maybe not go, but more than likely I'll be there. I'll make it happen. And then probably PAX Unplugged in December.
It's like I'll see if I can sprinkle my schedule or something.
Yeah, trying to maybe sprinkle some stuff in if I can, but we'll see what the kids are up for.
All right, sounds fun. Well, I will definitely swing by and get a demo at Origins, which is just a mere few weeks away at this point. Can you believe that?
It really is. I gotta get so many boxes ready.
Get to work, young man.
Ugh.
All right. Well, where can people find you if they want to follow any more game design ideas you have or anything like that?
At Joshua J. Mills on Twitter or at Joshua J. Mills on pretty much any platform. If you don't find me there, tell me. I'll go grab it. Otherwise, go out, back Big Easy Busking on Kickstarter, or if it's already over, figure out how to get a copy. Just anything. You do you. I can't tell you what to do, but
there you go.
If you follow at Joshua J. Mills, I'll tweet about stuff.
There you go. I've heard that. That's kind of what you're supposed to do, right?
That's what I hear. Although I keep putting pictures of my kids being weird on there, and I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't know. It's just for me later.
Okay. Well, it's you got to have that embarrassment material for them. So what can you say?
Yeah. Oh, they're gonna have to. They poor souls.
Well, awesome, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. We are going to play a game that you will see next week, and I think that's going to be a bit of fun too. So we'll be back next week. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you.
And thank you at home for watching. So be sure to put on some big brass music the next time you game all night. Thanks for watching this week's episode. Join us next week when we play a game with the guest. If you enjoy our content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Be sure to follow us on all forms of social media. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook are the best ways possible. Simply find us by searching for Game All Night Show. And of course, check out our website at gameallnightshow.com. This week and each week is made possible through the generous support of donors like these. Be sure to subscribe below and check out our latest videos.
Punchboard Media, where we all
bring something
to the table.
Pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.
It's not exactly cool in here because I'm in the office and I forget they turn the AC off. And we're in North Carolina, so it's hot as balls.
Yeah,
What am I
this
supposed
hot
to do?
right now.
I have to move. Good timing on this because the light that's in here is motion